All right, welcome. Today, we're going to do a really deep dive into the film The Old Bachelor. We're going to look at how one single tragic story can actually be seen through three completely different and pretty fascinating lenses. It's really a journey into how things fall apart. So on the surface, this film is a pretty straightforward and honestly gut-wrenching family drama. The whole thing is set almost entirely inside the walls of this one decaying house, which basically becomes a pressure cooker for all their secrets and resentments. But what if we look a little deeper, right? What if the house isn't just a house, and this family isn't just a family, but a complete psychological map of a single mind that is just collapsing? And okay, what if we push it even further, into the realm of physics even? Could this family's implosion actually show us a kind of universal blueprint for how any closed system, whether it's a person or a whole society, completely fails? That's what we're going to explore. Okay, so to really get into this, we have to start with the most straightforward layer, the actual plot. What literally happens on screen. So in this claustrophobic world, we've got four key players. First, there's Gholam. He's the aging, addicted father figure. Then you have his two sons, Ali, who's this very moralistic, intellectual type, and Reza, the younger one, who's more of a practical opportunist. And then the catalyst arrives, a young woman named Rana, who rents the top floor and just completely shatters their toxic balance. And this is where it gets really interesting, because every single element here is doing double duty. The house, well, it's not just a physical place. It's a symbolic prison of memory. Gholam isn't just an addict. He is the decaying core of this old world. Ali's rigid morality is its own kind of prison. And Rana, she's not just a tenant. She's a mirror, reflecting everything this family has tried so desperately to bury. The plot itself follows this classic, almost predictable four-act implosion. You start with this tense but weirdly stable state of decay. Then Rana's arrival introduces a disturbance that the system just can't handle. And this just escalates all the hidden conflicts over desire, over shame, over control, leading to the only possible outcome in a closed system that just refuses to change: total, violent collapse. Okay, so now let's peel back that first layer. Let's look at the psychological drama that's unfolding right underneath the surface. This is where the characters stop being just people and start representing parts of a single fractured psyche. So the main metaphor here is the house itself. Think of the house as a mind. Rana, who shows up on the upper floor, she represents the conscious, rational world. But down below, festering in the unconscious basement, that's where the family's primitive drives, their unprocessed trauma, and all their deep-seated guilt live. And this just brilliantly illustrates the core internal conflict. You've got the father, Gholam, who is pure id. He's chaotic, totally ruled by addiction and raw desire. And then, in direct opposition, you have the elder son, Ali, acting as the repressive superego, his rigid morality, his obsession with books and order. It's all a desperate defense against his father's chaos. It's basically a civil war inside one mind. And the other characters, they just slot perfectly into this psychological map. Reza, the younger son, he's the fragmented ego, just torn between these two extremes, totally unable to form a coherent self. Rana becomes what psychologist Carl Jung called the anima, the repressed feminine side that's been violently shut out of this hyper-masculine world. And haunting all of it is the absent mother, this emotional vacuum at the very center that every one of them is desperately and destructively trying to fill. So here's the crucial point. All of these internal battles start showing up as external conflicts. The fight over Rana, that's really about desire versus repression. The argument over selling the house, that's about control versus freedom. Every single fight is a symptom of this deeper, unresolved psychological war. And the final violent collapse, it's not an accident. It's the psyche's entire structure just dissolving under the weight of its own conflicts. All right, you with me? Because now we're going to go to our final layer. And this one's a little more abstract, but it might be the most profound. We're going to step away from psychology and look at this entire story as a system of pure energy. So for a minute, forget characters, forget psychology, and just think in terms of frequencies, waves, and interference. So to do this, we're going to use this fascinating concept called the Brain Kinematics Model, or BKM. Think of it this way. It treats every character and every emotion not as a person or a feeling, but as a distinct energy wave, kind of like ripples in a pond. In this model, Collapse is simply what happens when all those different waves fail to get in tune with each other. So in this view, each character is a strain source, basically broadcasting their own unique emotional frequency. The father, Gholam, he's the core attractor. His powerful, low-frequency wave of addiction and control is so strong it's like a heavy planet pulling the entire system into its orbit. In total contrast, Ali is a rigid, narrow-band frequency of pure suppression. Reza is just chaotic noise between them. And Rana? She's a brand new high-frequency input that the system just can't process. Because they're all out of tune, they create destructive interference instead of harmony. Seriously, picture this. You throw 4 different-sized rocks into a tiny still pond. Instead of beautiful concentric ripples, you just get a chaotic mess of waves crashing into each other, canceling each other out. That's this family. They are a multi-wave interference field, and the result isn't silence or harmony. It's emotional and eventually physical violence. And you can actually watch this process happen in a clear sequence. The system starts in a stable, if really unhealthy, oscillation. That's their day-to-day life. Rana's arrival is an input disturbance. The family tries to absorb this new energy. That's all the rivalry and attraction. But it fails. This resonance failure leads to growing hostility. And finally, a complete structural rupture. The system just breaks. Okay, so let's pull all 3 of these layers back together now. The story, the mind, and the energy field. How do they all form a single, unified fury of what happened? And this is where it all clicks into place. It doesn't matter if we look at it through the lens of the script, psychology, or this energy model, we are seeing the exact same process described in 3 different languages. Narrative entropy, unresolved trauma, strain overload. They're all just different names for the same thing. The destruction of the house, the collapse of the self, and the disintegration of the energy field are one and the same event. So when you boil it all down, the ultimate takeaway is this. The Old Bachelor is a perfect case study of what happens to any closed system, whether it's a family, a mind, or even a society, that cannot adapt. When a system is unable to balance the old stored-up energy of its trauma with the new, incoming energy of change, it is simply doomed to fail. And that leaves us with this one last kind of mind-bending thought from the analysis. It suggests that when a system's memory of past pain, its strain memory, becomes too much for it to handle, everything has to break. All meaning collapses down to zero. And maybe, just maybe, that absolute destruction isn't just an end, but the only possible condition for a true new beginning.